Shafting a putter model that requires a single, double, or triple bend shaft requires special procedures to ensure the shaft is installed correctly. The following procedures will allow you to install these types of shafts into the putter head correctly. Measure the loft of the putter head using a loft measuring protractor. You must know the designed loft of the putter head before the shaft is installed. Check the bore depth of the head. This can be done with a shaft or with a pencil or similar object. Note the depth of the bore and mark the shaft with a piece of masking tape. It may be necessary to prep or rough up the tip of the shaft so it will slip into the head completely. Prep the tip of the shaft using the proper procedures. It is recommended, since the bore depth is usually shallow on this type of putter, that the tip be roughened using a 1/2 to 3/4 inch by 6 inch strip of medium or coarse grit sandpaper. To prep the tip, place the shaft in a vise using the rubber shaft clamp to protect the shaft. Sand the tip of the shaft, being sure to get the complete surface of the shaft tip roughened. To properly align the shaft, you want to be able to turn the shaft in the putter head so it will hold its position when set. To allow this, tap the tip of the shaft with a hammer to make it slightly oval. This will allow you to position the shaft properly in the gauge and hold its position once it is set. Place the shaft into the head and place the putter head and shaft into the Maltby Golf Club gauge. Using the lie adjustment on the gauge, set the putter head so that it sits in the correct lie position and with the face square to the alignment lines on the gauge. The sole should be sitting in a proper lie position, with the face remaining square to the alignment lines. Once you feel the putter is sitting in the proper position, proceed to the next step. Using the loft protractor that comes with the Maltby Golf Club gauge, measure the loft of the putter. If the shaft is positioned properly in the club head, the loft of the putter while in the Maltby gauge will be the same as the loft of the putter head. See step 1. If the loft is different, reposition the shaft by rotating it until the loft of the shafted putter is the same as the measured loft of the putter head. Once you rotate the shaft, be sure the head is repositioned correctly in the Maltby gauge. When the shaft is installed properly, the shaft should be parallel to the face. To ensure the head is repositioned properly when the epoxy is applied, place a piece of masking tape on the back side of the head next to the shaft, and place another piece of tape on the shaft. Mark the tape with a line and mark a corresponding line on the shaft. This will allow you to properly line up the shaft when you epoxy the head and shaft together. Once the shaft is set properly into the head and the marks are applied to the head and the shaft, remove the putter from the Maltby Golf Club gauge. Remove the shaft and clean the hosel bore using the proper procedures. Mix the epoxy using the proper procedures. It is recommended to use the Golfworks High Impact Epoxy or the Tour Set Plus Epoxy. After mixing the epoxy, place a portion of the epoxy inside the hosel bore using a mixing stick. Next, apply the epoxy to the tip of the shaft. Be sure to get good coverage over the tip of the shaft. It is recommended that quick center be used, especially if the fit is loose. Install the shaft into the head. Rotate the shaft slowly while inserting it into the head. Once the shaft is completely inserted, carefully align the marks on the masking tape. Using a paper towel damp with grip solvent, wipe the excess epoxy from around the top of the hosel and off of the shaft. All of the excess epoxy must be cleaned off during this process. Place the club back into the Maltby Golf Club gauge and repeat the procedures from steps 4 and 5. Use the alignment lines that were marked on the shaft and on the masking tape positioned on the heel portion of the head. This should help realign the shaft and head into the proper position more quickly. Recheck the lie and loft of the putter to ensure the shaft is in the proper position. Once the putter is in the proper position in the gauge, check for any epoxy residue and clean off the head and shaft if needed. Leave the club in the gauge to cure. Once the epoxy is cured, remove the putter from the gauge and check to be sure the head is tight. Also, check the alignment. Mark the shaft for cutting to final length using the 48-inch aluminum club ruler. Cut the shaft to length using the proper procedures. The shaft should be cut with a cutoff wheel. Install the grip using the proper procedures.